Briefing at the State Department there, the spokesperson being asked about the visit to Hungary yesterday, where Hungary, by President Putin, where Hungary confirmed a new energy deal with Russia. Well, let's go now to the Ukrainian ambassador to the European Union, Kostiantyn Yelisieiev, who joins us now. Thank you very much indeed for being with us. All the news coming out of your country is pretty grim. First of all, it does seem that as Ukrainian forces retreat, the Russian-backed forces are carrying on fighting and killing.
Yes, good evening. Unfortunately, the Russian Federation and Russian-backed terrorists did violate the ceasefire which was established a couple of days ago in compliance with the Minsk agreements reached on the 12th of February. And this is very unfortunate because Ukraine is paying high price for this blatant violation of ceasefire. For instance, in accordance with the latest news, about 22 Ukrainian soldiers were killed, 160 soldiers were wounded. So currently the undeclared war is going on.
And it does appear that even if the fighting stops, the pro-Russian forces will have consolidated their position in eastern Ukraine.
You see, this late evening, the National Security Council of Ukraine will take place, at which the Ukrainian leadership will decide what to do the next. At the same time, right now, the phone consultations are going on in the Normandy format, namely with the leadership of Germany and France, in order to decide what steps need to be taken in order to de-escalate the situation. That's why, because currently the Minsk agreements are in the state of coma. And something needs to be done in order to revive this process.
But I'm really asking you, I suppose, whether it's worth carrying on going down this route proposed by the French and the Germans, precisely because it is leaving the Russians in possession and the occupation of large parts of Ukraine in the east.
Yes, right you are. We are calling upon the EU leadership to take more resolute actions in order to, first of all, stop this flagrant violation of ceasefire, and some creative ideas needs to be discussed. And among others, for instance, maybe to establish EU military operation on the ground in the Donbass.
Because in straightforward military terms, it is not possible, is it, for Ukrainian forces in their present strength to defeat or dislodge the Russians?
No, we are talking about this assistance with a view to help to Ukraine to implement properly the Minsk agreements in order to monitor the ceasefire, in order to help to control the touchline which had been established between pro-governmental Ukrainian forces and Russian-backed terrorists. We are talking about the ensuring safety and security during the future local elections on the ground in the Donetsk and Lugansk regions. Here we see a huge role could be played by the European Union, and here we count very much on the EU support, because what did happen near Debaltseve, which is a huge, big railway hub, transport hub in Ukraine, it was kind of a slap in the face of the democratic international community, in particular in the face of the European Union.
Do you believe that President Putin has any intention of giving up the territory which the pro-Russian forces have taken?
Of course, I don't know about his plans, but something needs to be done from the international community. Again, we call upon the European Union to wake up and to do the utmost in order to stop the bloodshed and to stop the war. Let's call a spade a spade. Could you imagine there is an open, undeclared war in the nearest, in the border regions with the European Union? So that's why we need to unite all our efforts and to be more resolute and more proactive.
But it does appear that the Russian strategic intention is precisely to keep Ukraine as a border state of the European Union, not a member of the European Union or indeed of NATO?
Maybe you are right that the ultimate goal of the Russian Federation, of course, to create a new kind of new Soviet Union, by the way, and as a short-term goal is, of course, to try to disrupt the process of political and economic stabilization in Ukraine, not to permit Ukraine to promote so needed internal economic, financial and political reforms, and finally to try to create on the territory of the Donbass kind of protracted conflict. That's why we need and that's why it's high time right now to act. We need to stop to issue numerous declarations and statements. We need to act.
We've just heard some breaking news, an announcement from the White House that President Obama, President Putin, Chancellor Merkel and President Hollande are going to have a phone call today to discuss the implementation of the Minsk agreement. I know this is just coming to you now. What is your reaction to that news?
This is very good that there is a dialogue, and this is our idea in order to engage in such a dialogue. But once again, we should not create the situation when this dialogue will become a kind of smoke screen for President Putin to promote its own interest in the Donbass and to continue the further destabilization of the situation on the ground. That's why, once again, talks, it's very good, but we need to motivate the Kremlin leadership for implementation of their obligation. That's why maybe it's high time to consider the idea about introduction of some restrictive measures, namely sanctions. That's why maybe it's high time to consider the idea of supplying to Ukraine lethal defensive weaponry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yelisieiev. Just to say that we've had further words from President Obama. He's saying that Moscow and the Russian-backed forces have not lived up to the commitments they gave under the Minsk agreement. Thank you again for being with us.